Hey everybody, it's Leanne from CVV Magazine. Mary Walsh. She has been called Canada's favourite comedian. Personally, I like to call her the queen of political satire. And she is here in Victoria for one night only, performing her new show, Dancing with Rage, here at the Metro Studio Theatre as part of their annual fundraiser, Raise the Roof. Unfortunately, Mary was not feeling totally up to speed today. She was feeling a little bit under the weather, but she was gracious enough to let us have an audio interview with her. So, with no more further ado, Miss Mary Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us, Mary.
Oh, thank you, Leanne. I'm afraid I sound a bit funny because I've got, I think I'm coming down with a cold.
Not at all, not at all. Mary, 3 years ago or so, my sister and I were commissioned by CBC to do a comedy pilot called Citizen Jane's. And when we did that pilot, we gathered a handful of great female Canadian comics together, posed them as journalists, and we wanted to tackle serious issues in Canada with a laugh. So one of the serious issues was the listeriosis crisis, the maple leaf tainted meat thing was going on back then. So we thought, how can we really cut our teeth on this one? How can we make it funny? So we thought the best approach would be to take Stephen Harper a ham sandwich from a corner store and see if he would take a bite. Right. So we did our best. We got as far as the alarmed carpet in front of his door, just across the velvet rope, and got taken away by the guards. But it was then that Gerald Lentz, Rick Mercer's producer and partner, said that we were like Mary Walsh's because of our ability to get through any door. So it was one of the biggest compliments we've ever had, for sure. But I was really excited to meet with you today to ask you what it is that drives you through those doors.
You can't get driven through the Stephen Harper doors because those doors don't open. There's no way through it unless you, with some kind of, huge cutting device. The conservatives are not open to being questioned by anyone, let alone comedians. I mean, they don't answer questions from journalists. They just are. They live in a bubble. Sometime I suppose that bubble will burst, but as of now, they don't take questions, they don't answer questions, they do spin, they just do spin. Even in the House in question period, they don't answer questions from the opposition. They say, if the opposition asks a question, they will just turn it around and say whatever it is that their message is, and, so there is nothing that could drive you through those doors.
And what about you personally? I mean, we're huge admirers of your ability to just knock down any doors and just talk to anyone. What drives you, do you think, personally, to do that?
I don't know. It was my job, really. That's what we did on This Hour's 22 Minutes. And so it's as simple as that, really. I mean, that's what we thought would be, I'm afraid I'm not as full of answers as I might usually be because I'm just not feeling very well. I got a bit of a fever, and I'm hoping I'm not infecting the both of you while you're here. But I just that was my job, and so I did it to the best that I could. Right? Yeah.
For sure. At the moment, are there any doors that you would like to open or sort of knock down, or is there any issues that you're itching to tackle right now with comedy?
Well, of course, the huge chasm that is opened between the rich and the poor, and the deepening, widening and deepening chasm, that is something that needs to be tackled, and we keep not tackling it. The working person is getting poorer and poorer, and 1% of the population or 2% of the population is getting richer and richer. And, the fact that the Conservative government has just done whatever the oil companies have wanted them to do, the Keystone thing that's supposed to be going, the big pipeline that's supposed to be coming across BC. Now, why BC would let Alberta put a pipeline across its pristine interior in order to get oil to China so that China would do well out of it, Alberta would do well out of it, but BC would only be there to take the... if there is a spill, then it will spill on BC. why BC would even consider that is beyond me. But so these sorts of questions, there's so many things that seem to be so wrong. But and the whole tar sands. I mean, it just is it's a national a national place of shame, really. But the interesting thing about it is when you're in Fort McMurray, people are desperate. The Alberta government is giving away bits of the tar sands almost. It's developing as if the tar sands was going to suddenly disappear, and they had to get the international companies in there to take advantage of it. It's a weird and bizarre time. We've gone back, as conservatives, I suppose, often do. We've gone back 100 or 200 years and become again just a resource-based economy where everything goes out of here and leaves, and nothing is left except the mess. Yeah.
And do you love attacking those issues with comedy? What sort of rise do you get from that these days? You've done it for so long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think I have done this because I don't think that 20 years ago, which is when we started this hour is 22 minutes, the chasm between the rich and the poor was as deep or as wide as it is now. And I'm not blaming it entirely on the Conservatives because, of course, Paul Martin's budgets in 95, 96, and 97 were devastating. And unionism, I mean, people, and the amount of money that the rich and have spent to speak against unionism and to speak against government, as if, that government and unionism were the two problems that the people had, and not corporations. And so I think that things have, I mean, certainly, I mean, if you were a depressive kind of person, you would think, I guess satire hasn't done any good whatsoever because we have gotten worse and worse. I don't know. I mean, maybe it takes a new approach. Anyway, it is. This show that I'm doing now is about all kinds of things. It's about getting older. It's about relationships between mothers and daughters, and it's about politics also. And so I don't know. It's I don't know if comedy does much good. Sometimes you kind of lose faith after a while, I mean, because all that seems to make any difference is money. If we had a shitload of money, we could do what we liked. If without a shitload of money, you're kind of fucked, really. I mean, I know that you're not going to say that, but those are the facts. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I should add, I don't think I added in the intro that you are here with doing part of Metro Theatre's fundraiser Raise the Roof. So you're performing Dancing with Rage, your new show, is that right?
Yes, yeah. It's a one-woman show, and I'll be doing that tomorrow night, I guess, or the Tuesday the 19th. Yeah, I don't know if your thing will come out before then or not.
And that sounds like a really awesome mix of just about everything that you've done so far, is that right?
Well, I guess, yeah. It sort of isn't really, because I've never done, well, actually, I did do a one-woman show in 1980. I did a one-woman show of James Joyce material, and the second act being Molly Bloom. But I find doing a one-woman show kind of lonely, really. But one of the great things about it, I guess I've learned since I started doing Dancing with Rage, is you have a very intimate relationship with the audience. Because it's only you and the audience, so that's great. But I guess there are some characters from the past, but the story itself is a new story. Yeah.
You're finding a child that you had or something.
Yes, Marg Delahunty discovers that she's going blind and decides to go on a quest across the country to seek this child who was taken away from her at birth. Yeah. Yeah.
We had the pleasure of working with a couple of writers from This Hour Has 22 Minutes. Dean Jenkinson came out and helped us with Dancing with the Octopus, which is a website dedicated to getting more women in politics. So he came out and helped us write a couple of comedy webisodes. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about that topic, about women in politics. I mean, when we did that, it was a couple of years ago, and I think Canada was ranked just behind Mexico and Pakistan in terms of representation of women in politics. So I was just wondering if that is anything on your radar, or what you think about that, if if you have any opinions about that.
Well, you know, I mean, it's so women sort of don't seem to want to get into politics. It's hard to keep the makeup on the two faces, I guess. And you know, and my experience, you know, Maggie Thatcher was no great proponent of women, was she, when she was in? And Indira Gandhi didn't really push women in India, did she? So, you know, it seems that in order to get into politics, women have to become more like men. In fact, more manly than men. More, you know, they have to become bigger pricks than the guys that are in there. And so that seems to be a bit of a problem. And I don't know how to fight that, you know.
That's exactly what we were making fun of. One of the comedy webisodes was called The Big Deal, and we were talking about, you know, putting shoulder pads in and lowering your voice and sticking your belly out and trying to be a little bit more male.
Yeah, and that does seem to be what happens to women, because it is a boys' club in many ways, isn't it? Yeah.
So with this show, how long are you going to be touring for?
Well, I just finished 2 weeks in Vancouver, and I was in Edmonton, and now I'm just going home from here for about 10 days, and then I'm going to Toronto for the month of March, and then I'm going to Nova Scotia, and then I'm touring throughout Ontario for a while, and I'm, you know, on the road a good bit now. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today.